Hi guys, in this video I wanted to share a few quick tips that might be useful before you move into your house and you start to strip things back, ready for renovations and decorating. When you're trying to peel off the wallpaper, don't bother spraying the wallpaper, especially if you've got a few layers. Typically, if you have the first layer, which is the decorative bit of wallpaper, then behind it's the backing, which may still be stuck on the wall. When you're taking that first layer of wallpaper off, don't spray anything. Do it dry. It sounds crazy, but trust me, it works. Second thing is, don't use these scrapers. You might see these typically. These are what we used back in the day. It's a lot of hard work. Buy these, right? So these with the angled blade, you can really hold it at a specific degree, 45 degrees, and you scrape the wallpaper off. These things are amazing. If the blade gets damaged or becomes dull, you can take these screws off and replace them with blades. You can get much bigger handles so you don't have to stretch as hard. Again, strip the first layer of wallpaper off with these rather than those old scrapers. It makes a big difference. Tip 2, again, relates to stripping off the wallpaper. So once you've taken that first layer of wallpaper off, you might have that second layer of wallpaper underneath, which is the actual paper that's stuck to the adhesive on the wall. Don't use a steam machine. Don't waste your money. I wasted money on buying 2 sets of machines. Luckily, I managed to return one of them. But that machine where you would typically turn it on, fill it with water, steam on the wall, then scrape, steam on the wall and scrape. 1, it's inefficient. 2, the heat, not necessarily the water and the moisture, but the heat apparently damages the plaster. We had a plasterer come by one day to give us a quote. He saw the machine and he was just like, get rid of this because you're going to cause damage to the walls. The heat is going to cause cracks in the plaster, especially if it's older plaster. So once again, don't use those stupid machines. Tip number 3, again linked with this subject, is, well, what can you do? The plasterer basically said, get a spray bottle. You know those pesticide bottles that you might use in the garden when you're spraying pesticides on plants? Basically, something like this. So something like this. One of those bottles. Fill that with warm water, or actually what we did, myself and my wife, we filled it with really hot water and then put some dish soap, some fairy liquid. Shake it about. Spray it on the walls, spray it once, spray it twice, spray it 3 times and just leave it, go make a cup of tea. Come back, use that same bladed scraper that I used and it should just peel off. It should just fall off the wall. If it's not, go back, fill it up with warm water or really boiling water, put some more soap and spray it again and again and again. Make your life easy. That way you can spray across the whole wall and then you just leave it, you come back and it should just peel off the walls. So tip number 4 relates to taking off the frames around the walls or the skirting boards off the floor. This is more mental health advice. Just know that in an older home, as you take off the frames and take off the skirting boards, be prepared for plaster to just fall off the wall, especially for a much older property which hasn't been plastered in a long time. It is what it is, right? You're going to have to plaster over it, whether you do it yourself or you get some builders in. If you don't want to do it, if you don't want the hassle, you can't afford it and you want to kick it down the road, you might want to leave the skirting boards and the frames. But look here, you can see all these massive holes up here and you can see down on the floor, so you can see that. These things are going to happen, especially for an older property. Or even when you're taking the wallpaper off, look at the holes I'm getting around the windows. Again, don't stress out. These things are going to happen. You're either going to plaster it or hire a plasterer to do it. Just keep relaxed. Tip number 5 is leave the carpets right till the bitter end. Whilst you're stripping off the wallpaper, whilst plaster is falling off, while the electricians come in and remove sockets and do all the work they need to do, and when the plasterers come in and do all the work they've done, once that's all done, then take off the carpets. It captures all the dust, all the grime, and you can throw it out. You could clean the carpets in between work, also to minimize the dust, especially if you're staying in the property. But if it's not too much of a big deal, if you're not staying in the property, then don't worry about it. Just keep the carpet to the end, then take it out and throw the whole thing away. Tip number 6 relates to contractors. If you're getting an electrician or you're getting a plasterer or you're getting someone to do the painting and decorating, we're at a point in our lives where there are so many comparison websites. There are so many websites where you can check reviews. Use that, get multiple quotes, speak to multiple people. Don't rely on one quote. Ask the neighbors, ask if they know anyone, if they've used anyone in the past. I mean, for me, for example, the plasterer introduced me to the electrician who introduced me to the roofer, the guy who came and fixed our roof. But I also used Check a Trade and similar websites where I could read other people's reviews. Photos, seeing photos and videos of other people's work is such a key thing for us. So the plasterer we picked, I found him on Check a Trade. I mean, I found him on Google. He ranked well in Google, but I found him on Check a Trade. And the pictures of his previous work, the plastering was beautiful. The electricians we found on Check a Trade, but I checked on their own website. And again, the reviews were quite positive. So don't be afraid. Do a lot of research, get multiple quotes, use the quotes back at each contractor, speak to your neighbors, speak to anyone else who can give you a good recommendation of someone they've used in the past, but get multiple quotes. Don't just stick with one person. Tip number 7 relates to budgeting. Just prep a really simple, basic Excel sheet. Put down the amount of money that you have to spend renovating, redecorating, hiring contractors. Make a list of all the things you've spent on, the list of things that you're potentially going to spend on, and just take a step back and look at the sheet. It will give you a really good idea of what you spent money on, what you have to spend money on, when you need to spend money on, potentially. That also comes by just talking to people. You know, we learned that you need to do the electrics before plastering. You need to fix any roof issues before you do plastering and redecorating. But use the sheet to get an idea of what's going in, what's going out. Potentially, it might help trigger the idea of, well, maybe we don't need this right now. Maybe we can kick this down in the future. Maybe we need to do this before we do that. Just have everything out, keep an eye on the money. The last thing you want to do is run out of money. To that point, a side tip is make sure you have an emergency budget, an emergency fund. Don't touch it, just lock some money away. We did that and it was super helpful because when the first mortgage payment came through, it wasn't exactly the amount that we were hoping it was going to be. It wasn't the £1,843 that we thought. It was a bit more. It's a pro rata calculation. It was like 2,000 something. So please make sure you have an emergency budget, money that's got nothing to do with the project, nothing to do with your renovations and decorations, and just keep it there. You never know what's going to happen. For all you know, there could be a massive leak and something falls through. You don't want to use your dedicated money for the project for that. You might have to, but it's just nice to have a dedicated budget as well as an Excel sheet just so you can track everything and you can be aware of everything going in and everything going out. Get to know the neighbors. You know, one of the things that we did is we knocked on the door of both of our neighbors within the first week just to say hi, introduce ourselves, get to know them, be a bit friendly, but also just say, hey, there may be a bit of noise, we're doing some renovation work. It's just being nice. I know that's a bit uncommon here in the UK just to knock on someone's door and say hi, but just do it. Get to know your neighbors. You're going to be here for the next 5, 10, 15 years. You might as well get along with them as well as you can and just to start becoming friendly with them and just to be a bit empathetic and strike a relationship as soon as you can. Be happy with the work that you've done. Of course, make sure it's done to a good standard. Make sure it's done to your requirements, but don't strive for perfection in the first couple of weeks or months. Don't worry if you're not able to do everything. Things change. As you know, buying a house literally is like an onion. As you unravel bits and pieces of the house, things change, plans change. Be happy and celebrate the things that you've managed to be able to do. And that's me preaching to myself because I'm such a perfectionist. I have such high requirements and I want to do so much. Ask my wife. I'm a nightmare to work with because I'm so ambitious and I want so much. I've been waiting for a very long time to get my own place, but you really need to take a step back. Cherish some of the work that you've done. Be happy with what you've done. And just think about the things you can't do now as things to save up and look forward to doing in the future. You're buying a house now. You're going to be here for the next 5, 10, 15 years. There's work you can do now and work you can do in the future. Tip number 10. There's 2 parts to this. I think 10A and 10B. 10A is beware of buyer's remorse. You will buy this property and you will start to unravel the onion, see the layers and start to think, why the hell did we buy this property? Or you had certain plans and certain visions and you're not going to be able to do that. Maybe now, not in the future, or maybe never. You will get buyer's remorse, put it to a side. Just get through, do the work you need to do and move on. It is very normal to feel slightly remorseful about the property that you've bought. It's so easy to focus on the negative things and the things you can't do. So you need to proactively think about the positives, why you bought this house, what you weren't able to do before that you are able to do now. And especially if you're buying this with a girlfriend, a fiance, a partner, a significant other, think about you both taking steps forward in your life. It's a big change and celebrate that. The other thing is you are going to argue with your other significant other. You're going to have different tastes. You're going to have differing opinions on the work to be done now, what should be done now, what should be done later. Just take a step back and try to agree to not disagree. and push forward. So tip number 11, and my final tip of the video, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is when you change properties, make sure you change the locks. Don't invalidate your contents insurance, anything like that. It cost us £265 to replace the locks and get 4 sets of keys to give to my parents and my in-laws. Just do it, and make sure that the lock that they put on the door, especially if you're in the UK, is a British standard lock, or a lock that satisfies your insurance companies. The last thing you want to do is get locks changed, spend money, and then the insurance company comes along when you have to make a claim and go, this isn't a standard lock, this isn't quite the right lock. Now, if you're going to ask me what's the standard lock, I have no idea. I only found this out because when I hired the locksmith, they put the lock. He was like, I don't know if this is a normal lock or meets the standards of, I don't know, the British lock requirements. Went back to his company, got a new lock, put it in, because he knows that this will satisfy insurance companies and claims. So yeah, please be careful of that. So 1, change your locks. 2, get multiple copies of keys to give to in-laws and other people you trust. And 3, just make sure it's the right lock that satisfies any requirements, that doesn't lead to invalidating any claims from your insurance company. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning into this video. 11 tips to first-time buyers. It doesn't stop there. In the comments below, please, if you've bought a house, if you're a second-time owner, third-time owner, or you're a landlord with a huge property portfolio, please leave some tips, some tricks, and some advice. Things that we need to consider before we buy a property, and things we need to think about after we buy a property. Once we've got keys, we're about to start our renovation project. Please leave some comments down below. Now, in the video description, I've got links to a bunch of things that I talked about today. So I've got some cheeky affiliate links. So guess what? If you're interested in buying the scraper or the spray bottle, check out my video description. There'll be some Amazon affiliate links. You guys will be supporting me, supporting the channel. Look, don't judge me. I need money to do these repairs. The repair cost is balling. It's growing out of control. So any support from you guys would be much appreciated. I've even got a link to the camera that I'm using to record my videos. This is a DJI Pocket Osmo 3. There are some fantastic reviews out there, so I'm not going to bother wasting my time doing a review. Check out iJustine's review, Unbox Therapy. But again, an affiliate link in the video description. If you want to buy the camera, please use that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching the video. Like the video, subscribe to keep track of our progress, and I'll see you in the next one.